Hi, I'm Marissa. I spent many years as a teacher, and now I work with 240 to help teachers pass their certification exams. And today, I'm going to help you. This video is going to prepare you for the core subjects EC through 6, Fine Arts, Health, and Physical Education subtest. And this video is going to cover 3 things: what's on the test and how to study for it, the most likely concepts that will be on the test, and we're going to look at a few practice questions. There is a lot to cover, so let's get started. Now, the core subjects, EC through 6 Fine Arts, Health, and PE, consists of 5 areas called competencies. These are visual arts, music, health, physical education, and theater. Each competency has descriptive statements that will give more detail about what will be covered on your exam. However, as you can see, these might leave you feeling even more confused. Don't worry, that's where I come in. Let's take care of our fine arts competencies first, then we'll finish up with health and PE. Competency 1 covers visual arts, so art you look at. You'll need to know elements of art such as color, texture, shape, form, line, space, and value, and principles of art like emphasis, contrast, pattern, rhythm, balance, proportion, and unity. That sounds like a lot of terms, but guess what? We have them all covered in our study guide. But let's go ahead and take a look at some art now and talk through a couple of the elements. Maybe you'll feel like you're spending a peaceful afternoon at an art museum with me. I bet you didn't expect that benefit when you press play on this video. As an element of art, line refers to a moving point on the surface of a canvas or other media. It has width as well as length. The functions of line are to direct our eyes around and through a composition and to express our moods and feelings. What kind of mood or feelings do you have from the use of line in this piece of art? Drop in a comment below. Let's discuss one more element. As an element of art, a shape is a 2-dimensional area defined by a boundary. Geometric shapes are mathematical in proportion, such as circle, square, rectangle, or triangle. Organic shapes are irregular and or curved, usually derived from nature. We see examples of both types of shape in this piece of art. If you want to see the rest of the elements, as well as everything else you need to know to pass this exam, check out the 240 study guide. But now, let's move on to the music competency. Here you'll answer questions about the concepts and skills related to the creation and appreciation of music. Let me be real with you. A lot of different concepts about music will come up here. I'm going to go over an amazing concrete concept you should know. But to really get the confidence you deserve to pass the test, you need to get the 240 study guide, link in the description. Now, how about that concrete concept you'll need to know for the music competency? Let's discuss a musical arrangement called a round. A round is a song in which 2 or more people sing exactly the same melody, but they begin at different times. Popular rounds include Row, Row, Row Your Boat and The Farmer in the Dell. When teaching students to sing rounds, begin by having the entire group sing in unison. Then, as students become more familiar with the words, rhythm, and melody, have students begin singing at different times. And here's a tip. Creating choreography for different parts of the song will add interest and excitement. I know you can't wait to show off your best dance moves. We're going to skip health and PE for now, but don't worry, we'll cover them in just a bit. Let's boogie on into our final fine arts competency. Here you'll need to know all about engaging theater instruction. Let me show you a descriptive statement that I think is extra important for this competency. Integrates instruction in theater with instruction in other subjects areas. Aha! Integrating with other subjects. There's a lot of potential there. There are characters in plays just like there are characters in stories. Studying both theater and fiction can help students understand characterization. Also, reader's theater is a popular tool for teachers to use to help students develop reading fluency. While they're practicing reading with expression, they are also learning about following directions on scripts. Oh, and let's not forget about social studies. There are many theatrical productions that align with historical events covered in TExES. Look for ways that elements of theater can support classroom instruction. Tired yet? Good, me either. Let's keep the study session going. The health competency covers a wide array of topics, ranging from human body systems to growth and development to family behaviors and lots in between. Let's spend our time together talking about ways to maintain a healthy lifestyle. These are important to know for your exam. And maybe you'll get a little inspiration. Teaching is a big job, but don't forget to make time for your health. A healthy lifestyle consists of many factors, such as nutrition, fitness, exercise, relaxation, stress management, and disease prevention. There are several effective ways to take a proactive approach to disease prevention, including practicing moderation for consuming foods and beverages high in sugar, which can elevate blood sugar and increase the risk of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer. Getting enough sleep is also important for disease prevention and overall health. Lack of sleep is associated with reduced cognitive function and a higher risk of developing cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, stroke, and diabetes. And both of these practices are beneficial and appropriate to introduce to elementary students as part of their health instruction. All right, ready to get fit? Let's sprint into our physical education competency. This competency is all about physical activity, including strategies for promoting a positive environment for all students to learn about and work on their fitness. Here's a tip. If you see a question about students struggling with an activity, look for the answer that removes the obstacle and allows students to have success. For example, young students struggling to hit a ball off a tee use a bigger ball. This would provide a bigger target for students, but they would still be completing the original activity. You'll also need to be familiar with physical education terminology. Let's go over a couple of words that are highly likely to come up on your exam. Locomotor skills involve moving the body from one location to another. Most locomotor movements involve the feet, but they may also include the hands. Some examples are walking, running, jumping, hopping, galloping, and skipping. Non-locomotor skills involve moving the body while remaining stationary. Examples include bending, stretching, twisting, swaying, wiggling, shaking, and balancing. So basically, with locomotor activity, you go somewhere, and with non-locomotor, you don't. Now that we've gone over some of the big concepts, let's look at some practice questions to show you how those concepts can appear on the test. If you want a lot of practice questions, you can click the free practice test below. At the end, you get a score report on how well you did on the test. Now for questions. Remember when we talked about elements of art? Let's look at how those are reflected in a question. Prior to asking a class of fourth graders to paint a picture of the sky, the teacher shows them a model and discusses how the intensity of color changes within the painting, with colors near the sun being brighter than colors further away. The teacher is using this activity to introduce which of the following elements of art: value, form, texture, or space. Now I have to admit, my first thought was choice D, space. But when I click on that as I'm working through my study guide, I see that it's not the best choice. The best part is the answer feedback also helps me see why space is not correct. The answer is actually value, which is the amount of lightness or darkness a color has. Let's look at one from the music competency. Remember, a lot of different concepts will be covered here. What is the importance of learning solfege according to the Kodaly concept? The correct answer is that it helps students understand how notes relate to one another. Feel like you need to know more about that? It's covered in the study guide. All right, let's move on to a question from the theater competency. Miss McKenzie wants her students to understand that theater has an impact throughout history and on many different cultures through the telling of stories. Which of the following activities would best promote this concept among students? Having each student research a notable story to find the culture and significance of the story. Then have the student read aloud the story and their research findings is the best choice. The students would better understand how various stories originate in different cultures and how the culture is reflected within the story. Now let's answer a question about health. Children are more susceptible to asthma than adults because, well, although physical activity might bring on an asthma attack, increased physical activity does not result in development of asthma. So this is not our answer. Increased time outside also does not result in development of asthma, so we can eliminate this one. People do not develop immunity to asthma, so this is not the one we want either. The bronchial tubes or passageways that allow air to enter and leave the lungs in infants and toddlers are small and narrow, making this our correct answer. Let's finish up with a PE question. Which of the following activities would best help develop the movement concept of spatial awareness? Spatial awareness is an awareness of oneself and other objects in space. Spatial awareness also includes understanding the relationships of objects when there is a change in position. Children would use these skills to accurately throw balls into buckets at varying distances. Now, that's just a small sampling of practice questions to give you an idea about how these concepts are assessed on the test. There's still plenty more to learn. Did you know that our study guide has 78 pages of study material? If you really want to make sure you're prepared for the core subjects, EC through 6, Fine Arts, Health, and PE exam, take the next step and subscribe to the 240 study guide. It is test aligned with hundreds of practice questions, so you know precisely what you need to study. And it has the money back guarantee. So click the link below right now to get started.